So the topic of this video is going to be how your kids, when they're struggling to get that attention from the other parent, and when that other parent basically fails. So that is the topic for this moment or for this video. You have to keep in mind that your narcissistic ex is going to try to use everything in their power to play you against your kid. The latest example of this for me was a few weeks ago. My youngest I only have one kid under family court anymore, but my daughter was talking about wanting to do this special event, this pottery thing with her mom. It's like, oh, I want to do this pottery thing with my mom. It's like 4 weekends in a row, but it's always on your weekend. And I'm like, okay, big deal. If is it really important to you? Is it really what you want to do? She's like, yes. And I'm like, well, you've been looking for things to bond with your mom, so we'll make it happen. Not a big deal. Not worried about it. I basically forgot about it. Hadn't thought about it. Basically told her that I would, whatever we needed to do, not a problem. I wasn't going to make an issue out of it. Today, or maybe a couple days before, depending on when this video is released, was a day that they were supposed to start this. I didn't realize it, didn't know it. All I knew is that at breakfast, or more like brunch, whenever we got all together to eat, my youngest was really out of it, not really happy, and something was bothering her. And she was texting. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? The thing is, or what ultimately happened, is today was the first day the thing was supposed to happen. Daughter was trying to get to her mom to say, hey, today's the day, we're doing this, right? And they didn't do it. And it's really tough whenever your child is completely, it's two-part. There's two parts to this. One is it's really tough whenever you see your kid really going for the breadcrumbs. Whenever you know that they just want that attention from the other parent so badly. And a lot of times when it happens, they're kind of neglecting you, or they're discounting you because they're so fixated on trying to get that attention. The other thing is the other parent assumes you are going to be the villain that they tell everyone you are, that they think you are. And I think ultimately what happened in this situation is the ex probably brought it up like, oh, this would be a great thing to do. It'd be super awesome, but your dad will never let it happen. It's just so sad. I mean, it would be such a great time, but he won't let it happen, that type of thing. I have no clue in reality if that's what happened, but I would say just from past experience, there's a pretty good chance that's the way it played out. So then whenever I accommodate it and, the other parent in this situation only cares about herself. If it's something that she wants to do, she's Johnny on the spot with it. But as soon as it's out of sight, out of mind, it's off the table. And if it makes her look good in the moment, of course she's going to say, yes, let's do it, and be all accommodating. The thing is that, and I get that this is really tough for anybody who is super struggling with this, that maybe their kids have already been alienated and you don't get any time. But if you're in the situation where you do have time, I would encourage you to approach it this way of trying to be accommodating for these things like this. If it's important to your kid and they really want to do it, if at all possible, try to make it happen. And the good part about it is oftentimes what will happen is the narcissistic ex will expose themselves to your child. It's not a great experience, not a lot of fun. It's really hard. I mean, my daughter's day has been torpedoed all day up until just recently. Actually, I just dropped her off over to her mom to drop something off that she had picked her up for whenever she went on her little college trip. Initially, I thought it was just going to be a quick drop off, but she's like, I'm going to stay for an hour, right? So she's getting the attention, right? So mom is finally giving her attention, so she's going to try to make up for it, which is also really tough because in a lot of ways, we want the kids to see it, put the pieces together, and, hold the other parent accountable. Unfortunately, what more than likely is going to happen is the other parent will at some point throw some attention towards them, and they'll gobble it up like it's like a starving person who hasn't had anything to eat for a really long time. The thing is, though, try to be the person that's not being the difficult one, even though you're not being the difficult one, it's the other person. But you can rest assured that had I said no on that special little pottery thing that now is not happening, but whatever, then I would have been painted the bad guy. I would have been the evil one who is just, not letting go and all that kind of stuff. And it's really weird because I will say that when I was talking with my daughter about this thing a couple of weeks ago when it first came up, I'm like, why are you worried about this? I mean, did you really think I was going to say no? And she's like, no, you always make things happen. I'm like, okay. But see, it's like they get spun, right? They get programmed, or they get the covert narcissistic influence where they think that not think that they believe it, but they kind of get that idea incepted into their head. We just have to be really careful that we don't fall for that trap, that we don't reinforce the that potential illusion, and try to make the most of it. The reality of it is this is really tough because, I mean, I've been dealing with this for 8 years, right? I mean, so I've been dealing with this with all the different kids for all the different, for all this time. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit better at it, after all, after having some lather, rinse, and repeats and seeing these patterns repeat. It makes it a little bit easier, but it's still really tough, right? And it can, all of these things can be really very triggering. And it's our job to make sure that we don't go down that path, that we don't take that bait, because ultimately what happens is we undermine our relationships with our own kids. A narcissist is able to use that to plant their seed of doubt and everything. Now, to be perfectly honest, there's a risk with always on this, because there could come a time where your kid could be, oh, it's so awesome, and you do everything you're supposed to do, and they're like, I want to live over here. I want to do something different. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have to make the best course, or the best decision, pick the best course of action, is what I was trying to say, to try to achieve your goals. It's tough, it's really tough. And these situations, they just kind of keep going. They just kind of keep progressing on with more stupidness. I'm kind of at the stage now, after doing this for the 8 years and gone through 2 other kids, that I'm really at the point where it's like, I just want to get through the last part, get this kid, get the last kid to an adult, hopefully get her off into college, hopefully start her life with a good foundation, and go from there. It's pretty dicey right now. It's really weird. I know you guys, anybody who's been following the channel for a while knows that there was a completely different dynamic with my daughter. It's all just changed recently, the last couple of months. It's kind of sad to watch. I still have high hopes that things are going to turn out okay. But, it's a tough one. Let me turn this. Oh, can I turn this back on? So, stay strong if you're going through this. Try to really think about it as a big picture. Realize that most of the time your ex is trying to play you to get you to play the victim, or play the enemy, or play the bad person. If at all possible, if you can avoid that, it'll really help you out. try to keep your communications open with your kid, and just try to do the best you can. Curious what you guys have been dealing with. If this rings a bell with anybody, if so, put your story or your feedback in the comments below. Would love to hear how you've been dealing with this and what the pitfalls and maybe successes you've been having. And on that, I will chat with you on the next video. Take care.